Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. The WBC is the first sanctioning body to rank former unified champion Anthony Joshua, inserting Joshua in the WBC rankings at number 3. And this is the first update the WBC has done to its rankings since the end of March. So I'll go through the big changes because there are a few. The biggest, of course, is Anthony Joshua, but we will get to that. Buckle in. Let's go. So starting at the top, we have Dillian Whyte at number 1. He's been the number 1 rated contender for about 600 days now. He is pushing to become the mandatory challenger for Deontay Wilder's WBC title. We shall see what the WBC does here. Eddie Hearn, his promoter, says they want to really push the WBC to make him the mandatory, but not only that, have that brought forward and try make Deontay Wilder fight another mandatory sooner than they otherwise would normally allow. So we'll see what will happen there. Tyson Fury, who looks set to have a rematch with Deontay Wilder and possibly even a trilogy fight in 2020, he is number 2 here in the rankings. He is set to face German Tom Schwarz on June 15th. He'll probably maintain that high ranking just on the basis of activity. And at number 3, you have Anthony Joshua joining the rankings. That spot, number 3, had previously been held by Luis Ortiz. He drops down 1 to make way for Joshua, who was ranked for the first time since 2016. So the former champion, number 3 here in the rankings. Remains to be seen what the other sanctioning bodies will do. The IBF rankings, they are already overdue. They should have been out by now. The other sanctioning bodies, their updated ranking lists will come out later in the month. At number 4, Luis Ortiz, who, as I said, dropped down 1 spot. He takes the spot that was occupied by Dominic Breazeale, who falls from all the way from number 4 spot to number 13 in the rankings. Obviously, he was pulverized by Deontay Wilder on May 18th, stopped in a round. And this is pretty typical of the WBC. The beaten challenger normally falls somewhere between 10th and 15th spot. And if you remember, Berman Stavern, who was iced by Deontay Wilder in November 2017, he hung on in the rankings despite not fighting for well over 6 months. And we'll see what happens with Breazeale here. He may linger just like Stavern did. At number 5, Adam Kovnatsky, and he will be taking on Chris Arreola. He maintains firm this month, taking on Arreola at the start of August. At number 6, Joseph Parker. He will be fighting in Providence, Rhode Island on the Demetrius Andrade card at the end of the month, likely to maintain his rating based on activity. At number 7, no change with Alexander Povetkin. Kubrat Pulev, he swaps places with Ajit Kabayel, so Pulev 8th, Ajit Kabayel in 9th, and at number 10, Oscar Rivas, no change. As we know, he's going to be facing Dillian Whyte in July. So although that Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte are talking about mandatory challenges against Deontay Wilder, there is the prospect of a very difficult fight with Oscar Rivas on July 20th. And actually, Dillian Whyte could lose that one. So they may be counting their chickens before they hatch here, because Oscar Rivas is a very tough guy, and he could potentially stop Dillian Whyte. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins that one. At 11, Derek Chisora, he maintains his position. But at number 12, a new entry into the WBC rankings, Filip Hrgovic, the rising prospect out of Croatia, who recently fought stopping Gregory Corbin in the first round in Maryland. That was, in May 25th, I think it was. That was the card that Alexander Usyk, was meant to be fighting on. So Hrgovic, he actually replaces Tony Yoka, and I think this is an activity thing. Yoka, he's been out for a year, and I think based off that, he's been dropped because obviously he hasn't been active. But there is something here with, and I forgot to mention this with Anthony Joshua as well. You have Hrgovic here too. Their entry into the rankings is subject to them enrolling in the clean boxing program, which is VADA testing, random testing, year-round, anytime, anywhere, all that sort of thing. At number 13, Dominic Breazeale, as I mentioned, he slipped all the way from his 4th spot. He was the mandatory, stopped in a round. That whole thing where he was at 4th in the rankings, but the mandatory, still bizarre. He kept falling down. Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. At number 14 is Joe Joyce. He is up 1 spot from the last rankings update. And at number 15, we have Michael Hunter, who enters the rankings here. He's also subject to joining the clean boxing program, so a provisional ranking on the basis basis he does join. He was on that same card as Filip Hrgovic. He stopped his opponent, Fabio Maldonado, in, a couple of rounds. So Hunter joins the rankings, and actually there's a couple of guys who've dipped out of the 15 who were previously in it. Besides Tony Yoka, we also had Charles Martin. He's just outside the top 15 at 16th, and Carlos Takam, he's also dipped out of the rankings. That may also be related to activity. Potentially he would have maintained his ranking had he have fought Alexander Usyk. Obviously that fight was postponed due to Usyk's injury. We shall see what happens if Takam is the opponent for the rescheduled fight, slated potentially to take place in September. What do you make of it all? Anthony Joshua back in the rankings after over 3 years out. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.